Hey, what's going on, everyone? Sly here with D and D, man. We saw this last week, and I wanted to talk about it personally. Colin Cowherd, it's weird, up and down with your boy Purdy. And I don't know what it is because it seems like he wants to be in, but everybody from Fox Sports seems to be bashing him. So he wants to be with the cool kids pretty much. Yeah. But let's check this little clip out, and we'll talk about it.
Christian McCaffery is the Niners MVP. Not Purdy, so I think it's hard to win the league MVP when you're not the most valuable player on your own team. Christian McCaffery is the world's best running back. Brock Purdy is a good quarterback, maybe very good. Maybe I'm underselling him. But I see otherworldly talent here. The NFL's reluctance to give running backs the MVP award has now risen to comical. He's on pace to have 24 touchdowns and 2,200 yards on a team that is stacked. Kittle, Ayuk, Debo. They're stacked with weapons, and he could finish with a touchdown and a half a game and 2,200 yards. That's unbelievable. And this league is reluctant to feed running backs, to embrace running backs, to pay running backs. And yet San Francisco is 1988 football. They are old school. He's the typewriter reemerging. Feed him the ball. I think 20 years from now, it's going to look really silly if this Niner team was to win a Super Bowl, and you're going to be like, my God, Christian McCaffrey had 24 touchdowns in 2020, and they had Debo and Ayuk and Kittle and Hall of Famers. He didn't win the MVP. No, they give it to Brock Purdy. Where's he at? Well, they didn't want to pay him eventually 3 years later, so he's bouncing around the league.
All right, man. So potentially, and then if we don't pay him, he could be bounced from team to team like your boy Nick Mullins, man. Yeah. Well, what do you think, man? Do you agree with this, or I don't know, like, what's your take?
I think it's a safe take for him because he knows at the end of the day, we're still one of the best teams out there. With Shanahan, even though he's not really my guy, I even said it, he's like the D'Antoni. So no matter every year, we're still going to be as far as like a power team that's going to score a lot. That's going to be always like a contender for the NFC Championship. And so and like you said, we have a lot of weapons. You know, we have McCaffrey, we got Debo, Ayuk, our defense with Warner, with the Bosa, the Chase. So we have so many weapons from offense to defense. So it's one of those things where it's like a safe choice. Like, oh, like they're going to be like contenders every year, but what's going to get them to the next step? And a lot of people don't want to take their chance on Brock Purdy because why? He's the last pick. And so, and you look at history books, if someone in the first rounder does horrible, well, there's like always the excuse, like, oh, they don't have enough weapons, or, oh, like they just weren't like developing right. And even like going back, like before Mullins, like I would even compare like with Kaepernick, you know, he was rookie with us, then he started his second year because of the Alex Smith injury. We went to the Super Bowl second year, third year, NFC Championship. He never really developed as a quarterback, and then was horrible those next couple of years, and then he was out of the league. And so like you brought up Nick Mullins, so it's a safe choice because with those quarterbacks, unless they win a Super Bowl and they change the people's minds, they're always going to have that narrative like, oh, well, you know, he's only good because he has weapons, or he's good now, but can he be good in the future? Can he help this team every year be contenders like Brady-esque, you know, like every year, like no matter who's around him, he can have always like a winning team. So it's kind of like a safe narrative, a weak narrative to go by. But to me, like, I know at the end of the day, I've been a Brock Purdy fan since like we got him. I know at the end of the day, as long as he's our quarterback, we had like the best chance at winning. And yeah, like moving forward, like if we're gonna win, like he's gonna guy that's gonna help us win it.
To me, I mean, it's not just Collins, everybody that's been saying stuff like this. And it's just weird to me though that the fact, like, look at Patrick Mahomes his first year, where people are saying, oh, he's going to be bouncing from team to team. Who knows if Chiefs don't want to sign him, even though he had Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, Hunt coming off 2,000 yards total yards from scrimmage. So he had weapons all over the field. Yeah. We never heard that with him. He was a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's weird where MVP candidates, a guy that's like balling out, has this much critique from people, you know? Yeah. To me, that like doesn't make sense at all. I wonder if Kurt Warner, when he came out of nowhere, 29 years old, they were saying, oh, well, you know, he'll probably be bouncing from team to team and he won't make much of himself. It's weird to me because he's having one of the best seasons out there, like ever. He's averaging 9.9 yards per pass. That's like he's averaging like a first down every time someone catches a damn ball. Yeah. So it's absolutely insane.
With like 2 to 3 touchdowns a game.
Exactly. So to me, it's weird that so many people. I think it does have to do with the way where he was drafted, the last pick, Mr. Irrelevant. People just can't get that out of their heads. Like, oh well, there's something wrong with them. There has to be like a glitch in the system because we scouted all these damn quarterbacks and the last pick of the draft. Like, man, it's a Christmas season, man. This reminds me of the story of Jesus, man, when everyone thought the king was going to come from a big old castle and he came from a manger. Yeah. That's kind of the same thing with Brock Purdy, man. The last pick, nobody really liked him. He's only 6 feet tall, not the biggest, not the strongest arm, but this guy's just doing like amazing things. So, I mean, that's what I think's going on. And it's weird that so many people are out there just, I don't know, just bashing this guy, saying that he's going to be bouncing from team to team. It's like, I kind of just like, I roll my eyes when I hear stuff like that, man. But what else?
Just until he wins the Super Bowl, I've been saying it like over and over that unless he wins the Super Bowl, it's always going to be that stigma just because they're always going to make it an excuse. And we could look at like this year's draft, like we could be like, oh, you know, like Trevor Lawrence, like him and like Zach Wilson, like Trevor Lawrence just doesn't have like the help, even though he has a good team. Zach Wilson, oh, he failed just because that whole organization is terrible. Even though, like, in my opinion, like that whole draft class, like weren't not that good of like quarterback list, you know. To me, that's why I wasn't sold on Trey Lance. I wasn't sold on the rest of the quarterbacks. And when I was like watching them, I was just like, dude, like they have a lot of flaws and mistakes. And with Purdy, when I actually saw him in training camp, I was
We're there the first day.
Yeah, I was like, dude, like this guy is like doing better than all the quarterbacks, and he's fucking the third string.
Not by the time he could have been the fourth string because Jimmy was on the sideline.
Well, Jimmy was on the sideline,
yeah,
but
okay,
by the time, as far as like reps, like he was the third string because they didn't know what was gonna happen with Jimmy. They were trying to trade him, and so he was getting the third repetition, and I was just like, dude, he has like the best arm there, and so. Moving forward, like I was not surprised like when he came in and he was making those plays happen, and like you even heard like Sam Darnold, like it's not so much like his like ability, because there's certain like quarterbacks I know we're facing him like this weekend, but like Lamar Jackson, just that play with the Jets, like where he almost fell down and he kept himself up and like threw the ball. There's certain quarterbacks that can make plays like that happen, but like this you cannot teach. Like there's certain things that Brock Purdy just sees on the field and then he just adapts quickly, especially like when he's getting rushed. Like he'll see a play open and then someone's rushing to him and then right away he scrambles and then makes a fast, like quick, smart. And Darnold like talked about it when he was talking to Olsen. He was like, dude, I never seen a quarterback like that, just like taking so much info and just adapt and then just switch on like that. And so that to me is like what separates him from the rest of the quarterbacks, is just his IQ. And I think moving forward, like that's why everybody loves him, and that's why we are like, they rank our offense so high without giving him credit, because like that McCaffrey play, just last play to like kind of like bring out, just like when all the analysts were just like, well, look at McCaffrey, he's wide open.
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't talk about like this guy was getting pressure and he had to go outside of the pocket, turn his shoulder, and then throw it to McCaffrey. So, you know, that's always going to be the narrative until he wins a Super Bowl, I believe. But again, like this is our quarterback, man. I haven't like felt this strong about a quarterback like since you mentioned, like since like Steve Young probably. Like I was just like, man, like with this guy, like I really think like we have a chance to win it.
And it's funny, at the beginning of the season, I was happy. I was like, I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler, you know? And to me, he's exceeded my expectations, because now he's like one of the front runners to win the MVP. So like all this bashing and stuff, and people still don't know. To me, like I get where Colin's coming from, just because he's not watching the Niners like we are. Like we're watching the game, every play, watching every preseason game, so we kind of have a better understanding of it. So I get that, but it's kind of weird when local media starts bashing them. Like, dude, you're there at every practice and you don't see the stud. This guy's like an absolute stud. Like in my opinion, like he's not going nowhere, and he's gonna be with us for the next 10-15 years. And obviously there's going to be games where he has hiccups, and we're going to hear it. We're going to hear like the 3-game losing streak. I was defending him. I was like, dude, guys, don't trip. Please don't trip. But everyone was losing it. Like the content creators were going loud. They were being loud again, just how they were in the offseason, just screaming like, this is BS when Sam Darnold's starting. And I was like, guys, he had a concussion 2 of the 3 games.
Yeah.
And then even the game against the Vikings up until the 4th quarter before the concussion, he had like his over a 90 QBR. It was like crazy what he was doing, you know?
Yeah.
And then people were just freaking out. Like, dude, guys, we haven't had a quarterback like this in forever.
It's crazy just how they freak out because like how you mentioned like those like 3 games losing streak and even like the Eagles game the first quarter. I remember like going on Twitter and like everybody was like freaking out. I was like, oh, Brock Purdy's nervous. Brock Purdy when he sees the Eagles like line.
Yeah.
And then what happened? That guy was just like super calm, composed, did his thing, just played, had fun out there. But like as far as like everybody just like freaking out and like raving about him, it's just like, dude, like they don't understand like. It's a long season, man.
Oh, yeah.
And like look at like this season, like Brock Purdy MVP, and who was his competition? Dak Prescott. Oh, like all year they're raving about Dak. He loses like 3 games, and like now he's out. We got to get Lamar in there. And like analysts, they just don't want to be wrong. I think it was like Olsen, right, who said that.
Yeah.
I want to say he was one of the analysts that said that. That was just like that. Like realistically, like the analysts just don't want to be wrong, man.
Yeah.
They look at these like prospects every single day, and they're lazy. And for them, they just want to just make sure that they're correct, and they don't want to be wrong. Like, oh my gosh, like we can't believe that this guy, the last pick, we look like idiots, you know. And so that's kind of like where they're not gonna like budge. They're gonna like do everything they can. Hopefully, the pressure gets to him and keep bashing him. And then if it turns out being right, they're gonna be like, well, we've been saying it all along.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're licking their chops right now. Like the media, they are licking their chops. They're waiting for him to have a bad game.
They're praying like for us, especially this weekend, like, to lose to the Ravens.
It's so weird how a few weeks ago it was like Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, who's the front runner to be the MVP. And we saw what happened. You know, Brock Purdy 4 touchdowns, 0 interception. Hurts kind of struggled that game. Next week, we weren't playing Dallas, but we had our other game, and it was Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, who's the MVP. Brock Purdy, he's the front runner. Out of nowhere, where did Dak come from? I know he's having a good season, but he didn't come out. He came out of nowhere, and then he had a horrible game.
Yeah.
The next week, now it's Brock Purdy, Lamar Jackson.
They weren't even talking about Lamar.
They were not talking about Lamar. He has 17 touchdown passes this year.
Yeah, like 5.
That's like
over
barely over 1 touchdown a game. I know he has like 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns, maybe 7, but I think it's like 31 for Brock Purdy altogether, and then 23 for Lamar, and his QBR is not even that great. But it's just so funny. And then I'm thinking, like, if we have a great game, they're going to bring someone else. I'm trying to think, who are they going to bring up? They might bring up Dak Prescott again and be like, yeah, Dak Prescott, he might be the MVP again. It might be Miami. So it's going over and over and over again. It's absolutely insane. So it just shows you the media bias right there. Like, it's absolutely, you never would hear that with Patrick Mahomes. Like last year, you're like, oh, he's pretty much going to get it. Or the year before, you know?
Yeah.
So it's funny. It's just funny. They're basically
even when he lost, he still got a lot of votes.
Oh, yeah. They're showing their card, you know, like Brock Purdy, they want him to lose. And now it's like, now a new narrative, because it wasn't after last week. It wasn't Christian McCaffery. How many people were talking about Christian McCaffery being the MVP? Now it's like, oh, well, it's Christian McCaffery now. Now it's him. And I get why people, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's weird. I get it. But then at the same time,
he would just be like my second vote.
He would be my second vote. But like before last week, not a lot of people were talking about Christian. Now that if it's like coming down to the nitty gritty, they're like, oh shit, now we can't give it to Brock. We can't give it to Brock. Give it to his teammate. Like, it's funny to me, man. But yeah, that's what we got. It's just a weird situation, but I don't know. We'll just see how it plays out these next few weeks. But that's what we got, man. Sly here with D. Merry Christmas, everyone. Talk to you next time. Peace.